Guys, so I'm back with another video, and this time I thought I would talk about prepping for the trip. Now, this is more prepping for the trip on a personal level. I know when you book your trip, Disney does send you some information that tells you what happens at 180 days, what happens at 60 days, what has to happen at 45 days. And I will link that coordinating blog post below. But this is more things that I like to do before a trip that, like I said, is more personal that you wouldn't necessarily get from Disney. So with that, let's get started. My first tip is if you are not used to walking or standing, I highly recommend, first of all, getting a good pair of walking shoes and walking. Walk a little bit more every day. I would walk when you get to your highest distance, I would have that be at least 5 miles because you walk a ton at Disney. That's not saying that if you are immobile, you can't go to Disney World because they do have, scooters and wheelchairs and things like that. But for people who are walking, you walk a lot, and that includes children as well. And along those same lines, please have shoes, actual shoes for your children. Don't put them in Crocs or sandals. I have seen so many little kids whose feet are just covered in Band-Aids because they have blisters or hot spots or something like that. It might be fine for your child to run around, and you might think that they can last all day at home in those things, but this is a lot greater distance than children would typically walk at home. So please let them wear actual shoes as well. So a couple of things I would recommend you buy beforehand would be ponchos, because there are 2 reasons for this. One, buying them in the parks is way more expensive than buying them at home. And secondly, when you buy them in the parks, they all look the same. So if they're selling yellow ones at the time, which I think they currently are, if they're selling yellow ones at the time, you're going to see a sea of yellow, and it's going to be a lot harder to pick out your family members from anybody else in the parks. I also would recommend buying sunscreen ahead of time for pretty much the same reason. I mean, not because you won't be able to pick out your family members, but because it's so much more expensive. Buy that ahead of time, if at all possible, and bring that with you. Another thing to buy ahead of time would be Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique supplies. Now, the Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique is a very, very popular experience for children where you go and you can get your hair, hair makeup costume to look like a princess. It is quite pricey, and in addition to that, it also takes quite a bit of time out of your day because you have to make a reservation for that experience. So you have to take the time to go there and then to actually, to wait and to actually sit and get everything done and then to leave. So, another option would be to do it yourself in your room. I know that is very popular as well. So what I would do is look online. The little girls that get their hair done at the Bibbidi Bobbidi boutique, it looks the same on all of them. So they all have the same, it's not really a bun, but it's kind of a form of a bun, I guess. They all have that same look. So I would look online, practice to do your daughter's hair that way, and then get a little crown from any store at home, like some dollar store or Walmart or something, carries that kind of thing. And then get the glittered costume hairspray, spray the top of their hair, and they will look just like those little girls. Those girls also have princess dresses or a Princess Jasmine costume that they wear. But instead of that, I think, if it were me, my preference would be to wear something like a skirt, because it would probably just be more comfortable. It'd be a lot cooler and less cumbersome. But this is a great way to save money and time, but to still have them look like a lot of those other little girls. Now, the countdown to the trip is half the fun, at least I know it is for me. So what we do is we make paper chains, and the last time it was kind of cool, I used Mickey Mouse colors. So I used red, black, and white, and on each link I wrote the day. So like a week before the trip, that one had 7 days on it, and then I would rip that off at the end of that day, and so on and so forth. So I've been known to have quite long paper chains because I get really excited about my trip, but that's really fun for kids. And another thing I just found today actually online is a parent had used a big piece of like tag board or poster board, and she had, obviously this is a lot closer to the trip, maybe a week or two ahead of time, she wrote the days of the week, and then she drew a shape underneath. So one would have a circle and one would have a square, etc., etc. And then at the end of that day, the child would color that in. So this is great for really little kids who are practicing their coloring. You can also make t-shirts, and I think a great way to do this would be to make like a pajama shirt, and you can decorate it with fabric paint or puffy paint or something like that, and have each child and the parents make a shirt that will be used at Disney, and tell them, you know, you can't wear it until you go on vacation. And I think that would be a great way to get the kids excited for the trip. Something else we always make ahead of time is our mousekeeping envelopes. And mousekeeping is the Disney term for housekeeping. And basically what they are envelopes that you would put a tip for them in. The custom, I guess you could say, is to tip about $1 to $2 per day per person. I'm guessing that kind of varies based on how neat or messy your room may be, but $1 to $2 per day per person. And we put these in just a regular white mailing envelope, and then we write mousekeeping on them. And you can have your kids decorate the envelopes then, so that will give them something to do and help them to feel involved and get excited for your trip. Another thing I would do with little kids beforehand is to, if you're worried about them potentially being afraid of dark rides or possibly a scary ride, have them watch the YouTube videos of those rides online ahead of time. I've heard great things about this for being successful for many parents, and then the child knows what to expect so that they're not afraid. And along the same lines of being afraid, a lot of parents also recommend bringing earplugs ahead of time. Buy a set of earplugs, just the cheap foam earplugs, if your child is afraid of loud noises. And this can kind of calm them a little bit, you know, fireworks and loud rides and things like that. So I hope this was helpful for some of you, a little bit of prepping for the trip. And like I said, I know these aren't things that you would get from Disney ahead of time. I know they'll tell you at 180 days you can make your dining reservations, and at 60 days you make your FastPass reservations. But they don't tell you to go for walks ahead of time if you're not used to the walking. I know a lot of people, something I didn't mention before, you can walk upwards of 10 miles a day potentially at Disney. So that's just a good piece of information there. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time.